You are in the session Looking for Love in All the Right Places. We're going to be talking about dating and relationships. Love to introduce our wonderful presenters, Sam Starr and Tim McHugh. We're so grateful that you guys are here to join us today. And they're going to talk to us a bit about their relationship and dating with disability and healthy relationships in general. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves and your relationship.
Well, all right. So my name is Tim McHugh, and this is my awesome girlfriend Sam, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you mentioned, and so we've been together for 10 going on 11 years now in a relationship, and we met when we were like 13, right? And so we're 27 now. Both of us are the same age. And no, Sam is 3 months older than I am. She likes to point that out. Yeah,
that's a joke.
Yeah. And so we, and most of that time that we were together, we lived across the country. So Sam has, you spent most of that time living in Georgia, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I've basically lived in Georgia most of my life.
Right. And so we met online on an online game, and we've been in a relationship online for most of those 10 years. So
I just recently moved here.
Yeah. And she brought her adorable cat with her that I don't know if she wants to make another appearance on camera.
That's okay. Yeah. She seems like she's not in a very good mood today.
Yeah, a little grouchy, but
it's okay.
Yeah. So
just like people, cats respect their personal space.
Yeah, well,
they want their personal space.
Well, they have their own personalities, right? You know, so. Okay, so I think that just about covers it for about us. Do you have anything?
I think so.
Okay, yeah.
So what do you guys think is the most important thing to a healthy relationship?
Okay, so what was it that you said last time? The 3 things. It was
the 3 things are communication, patience, and compromise.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's really important to always be patient, with your partner. All right. If people aren't perfect, so you have to, and this is true of any type of relationship, right? But you have to be willing to communicate with them and come to a conclusion or a compromise, right?
Yeah.
That both of you are happy with. I really think it's so funny that we live in a society where the word compromise, I just realized as we were doing these webinars, that's something that people have attached a really pretty negative connotation to, I think, because no one wants a compromise. They always want to have it their way, and that's not good to have in a relationship.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So
it's a team effort.
Yeah.
You're both in this. It's important to make sure that you're both happy and you're both where you can find solutions to a problem that you both can be satisfied with, because otherwise that's going to create a problem that's just gonna kind of brew in the other person who kind of got the short end of the stick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys say that you met online. Did you use a dating site? Did you meet each other in a game space? Or how, for folks out here who are wondering, how do you find a good partner or mate?
Yeah, so I generally, when I get asked about this, I tell people that I don't know anything about dating websites or how that works. I understand that works for some people, but I met Sam when I was playing an online game, It was kind of like what would you call it? Like an MMO?
Yeah, it was a kind of a miniature MMO, which I believe is kind of like a contradictory term. But
Yeah, right.
basically, it was a small little online game made by some a small group of people.
Yeah, right. And we helped make the game and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
So and so that's how we met and stuff. We yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and maybe dating sites do work for some people, but it's always good. I would suggest if they do that, to kind of test the waters first, so to speak. Befriend the person before you take that big step with them.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that
we started out as friends.
We were friends for like 5 years before.
Actually, it was like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 4 years.
4 years. Okay, well, I mean, close enough. The point is that it was many years where we were just friends, right? And we, knew each other, and we really just like got to know each other in that sense.
Yeah.
Before we thought, hey, we should maybe, why don't we see if we can have a relationship? So
yeah.
And what? Oh gosh. So how old would we have been when we started a relationship? Like 17, right?
Yes, 16, 17.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a reasonable age.
Yeah.
Right. I think it can be difficult to have a relationship at that age, because both people are still growing. But
yeah,
somehow we managed it, I guess.
Oh yeah, we managed it. There was bumps along the way, but
of course,
every relationship has its bumps. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So
the important part is that we stuck together through it all.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So when you talk about bumps, what kind of bumps can you experience in a relationship, and how do you overcome those as a couple?
Well, there was times when home life wasn't exactly the greatest. There'd be some problems and whatnot, and I'd be stressed or upset over some of it, and like I'd kind of vent and whatnot. I'd kind of have a lot of depression and sort of stress from it, and he helped me out with those bumps. He helped me out, like, calm myself down, and really helped me to smile in those hard times.
Yeah, and then me, this is where people's kind of like they're when you have both people with the disability of some form in a relationship, then they interact, right? So I've always had anxiety, right? And so of course I would then spend a lot of time like worrying about how she's doing, and then kind of like probably be a little irritating about like always wanting to check in and make sure things are okay, because especially when I was younger, so
yeah.
That's just such a weird thing to say, but that we really were a lot younger. It was 10 years.
Oh, I know, gosh. It's so crazy to think about, eh?
I know. So
so what brought you guys to the point that you felt like you're ready to live together and move in, and how did that work out?
I'm trying to think of when that was.
Well, so that's something interesting. We didn't even talk about this in the last video, but we visited each other a couple times over the years.
Each of us visited each other twice.
That's right. So the first time I visited you was after when we had been together for 3 years, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
And that was still like definitely a period for us where we were still like figuring things out and stuff like that, and like, so when I went to visit her, it was definitely like this thing that like helped me figure out like, okay, yeah, I can see how this is going to work, with us being together in person, and so, and then like the next couple times we visited each other, all of those times were like in the last like 3-ish years probably. Yeah. So we always had a situation where we didn't have like a whole lot of money to be able to travel across the country, which is really real like consideration when you're looking for someone to be in a relationship with. If they live really, really far away, it's going to be really
hard to meet them in person.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to meet them in person, and particularly to have one of the people move you know, and
yes.
stuff, depending on what their situation is.
I made a half and half move myself.
Yeah.
So my stuff came with me, just like what could fit in a couple suitcases.
Yeah.
And the rest of my stuff is pending to be moved up here. So
Yeah. So, you know, it was a couple of months ago that she moved here, but you know, with the whole coronavirus and all that kind of stuff, it's been a little difficult to
yeah,
get that stuff up here. So,
absolutely.
but yeah. Well, sorry, I went off on a tangent. What was the original question?
Any challenges with moving in together, and you know what made that the decision for you? When did you guys decide? Oh yeah, we definitely want to move in and do the living together thing. And then has there been any conflict or challenges living together for the last few months?
I think that I always, for me, I always knew that I was hopeful that we would be able to like move in together and stuff like that. But it wasn't really until like I moved into my own apartment, which was only, what was that, like a year and a half ago, maybe?
Is it two?
Like 2-ish years, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Closer to 2 years. It was only 2 years ago that I moved into my own apartment and out of my mother's house.
Yeah.
So that was when I knew that I was like, yeah, I'm ready. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, was it took me a good while to get myself kind of mentally prepared, because I was like, I don't want to leave my family, but eventually it got to the point where it's like, okay, I need to go.
Yeah.
I can't keep waiting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big change.
Yeah, it was. It was something I was definitely like, for a while, I was like kind of scared of it, but eventually at one point I just stopped and I was like, what am I doing? I should be moving over there.
Yeah.
What the heck? I need to get on that.
Yeah, but that's like a big change, right? So I think it's really important to understand that that's something that isn't, you know, if you're in a relationship, like a long distance relationship like that, that's the changes like that, you know, you might be asking your partner to make in their life. That's something, it'll take time, and, you know, you have to be patient with them to be able to do that when they're ready. I mean,
yeah,
you know, I've, you know, like I say, I moved into this, you know, apartment 2 years ago. And that's when I knew that I would be able to have, you know, Sam move over here. But then there was still that period of time where it was like, you know, that you know, she wasn't ready yet. And so that's really important to respect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I think that pushing the other person into it would
really
possibly be really like detrimental to how they feel and whatnot.
Yeah, it could be really traumatizing.
Yeah.
Know, so.
Especially if they have no control over their current situation.
Yeah, you know, and stuff. So, but as for challenges now that we live together, right? Okay. Well,
I'm like, you're halfway pushed out the panel.
I guess so. Yeah, I am slowly going to the side. Yeah. Challenges now that we live together. Well, we sleep at different times of the day, so that's a little challenging, right?
And insomnia.
Yeah, and I have to always be awake during the day for my job, so that's something that can be a little challenging. Although I have to say that, you know, I'm able to deal with that a lot easier now, because, like, you know, before I was always like worrying about you, and now, you know, I'm just like, oh, you're just sleeping. Oh, okay, it's fine. I don't have to like wonder where you are if I can't get hold of you, you know.
Yeah, you just like, Sam. Oh, she's there.
Yeah.
She is sleeping.
Yeah, for real. So, and then we also like tend to eat a pretty different amount of food. So, like, you know, I'm always hungry. I love to eat, right? So
you could eat a horse.
No, actually, literally, I think I could probably eat like an entire horse. But
meanwhile, I just don't eat much.
Yeah, exactly. And so even though, you know, both of us like to cook, right? You know, which is a really cool thing we have in common. You know, we don't always necessarily want to cook the same amount of food every day, because only one of us is super hungry all the time.
Yeah. And sometimes we do get really distracted and engrossed in what we're currently doing. So it's like, oh yeah, food. Right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
a thing we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I heard you guys talk about a couple of things. One was boundaries. So how did you guys learn about each other's boundaries and talking about respecting boundaries? How is that important in your relationship?
Definitely, it's very important to talk about it. That's what we did. We kind of talked about it. And it's like, in some cases where it stemmed from a certain problem, we kind of explained the problem to the other that caused this sort of strict boundary to need to be placed and whatnot.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the thing too is that we've known each other, and then we've also been in a relationship for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And so we have talked to each other and kind of opened up about like a lot of really personal stuff, between us, and so we were able to then off of that, then we talked about, well, okay, so what are each of us like comfortable with, and this and that, and that type of thing. So I think it's really just about like talking about like, if you have something that you want, or you have something you need, or if you are not feeling comfortable with something that, is happening with your partner, then it's just really, 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 really important to communicate that and tell them, so.
Yeah, he definitely put it a lot better than I could.
So on that subject,
sorry, my alarm went off.
It's all good.
I do apologize.
No stress. So on that subject, what does consent mean to you guys?
Well, I would, do you want me to?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I think that, I think that consent is really a funny word, right? Because I think that we use it in probably a couple of different contexts. So like so for example, one of the ways that someone would say the word consent is that like that you are giving someone you're giving someone permission to use your picture, right? Like, so for example, I mean, I don't remember if we signed anything, but for example, Sam and I would consent to our likeness or whatever being used for a video like this. That's an example of where consent would perhaps be used.
Speak for yourself.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
I
just joke around.
But when you're talking about, your like what you want to do in terms of like a really personal, intimate thing, like, having sex or this or that you might want to do with a partner, I think that, maybe, that consent is way more serious, right?
Oh yes, definitely a lot more serious.
And it's not just something that you can necessarily just get as like you ask someone one time for consent to do A, B, and C, right? Or whatever, and then they give you consent forever, and that's just not how that works.
No,
it's
definitely not.
No.
Right?
It's not like this legally binding or like a thing. It's not.
You see so many people out there saying, well, you want it once this time. It's like, but that doesn't mean you want this time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? And so I think that keeping in mind that people are willing and or they have the right to change or take away their consent for anything. And you shouldn't assume that another person will always give their consent to something just because they did one time,
Yeah, I think it's very, very important to always ask your partner, is this okay?
Yeah.
You want to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You need to that's the thing, right? Is that now we talk about explicit consent because of the fact that it's this thing where, people are maybe making assumptions about whether or not consent was given,
Yeah.
right? So, I think that that's pretty important, you know, and
Indeed.
stuff. So.
So tell me, what are the things that keep your relationship fresh and keep you guys together?
Comedy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, I mean, we're trying to keep it maybe a little low key for this presentation, but you know, we're jokesters, you know,
Yeah,
so we love humor, you know.
Yes, we share a lot of memes with each other.
Yeah,
We
memes.
crack a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
You gotta be a laugh, right?
Yeah, right. Well, that's what I tell people, or that's what I say, you know, right, sometimes is that you know, if you can't laugh, then you have to cry, right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I say, because you know, that's, you know, it's humor is very important, I think.
Oh yeah, and laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah, right. And then, you know, the other thing is that what I think is really valuable to have in a relationship with you're looking for a relationship is to really make sure, or try to make sure, that you have things in common with the other person, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, when typically when people work, they can't necessarily do their work with their partner. So a lot of the rest of people's time are spent doing, you know, leisurely activities and
It's best to share those leisurely activities.
yeah, exactly. So you have stuff that you can do together. So, you know, for me and Sam, we love to play video games. We love to cook, and we love to
do collaborative writing.
Collaborative writing. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So.
Do you guys have particular roles that you have in your relationship that you stick with, or does that impact how you work as a couple?
Oh gosh, you know,
That's a good question.
I really don't think that any of those kind of like roles, you know, right? I don't think that like I ever noticed that, or I don't think that ever really came into play until we like kind of moved in together, because, you know, we like, you know, what we did, you know, we figured out what made most sense for each of us to do in terms of like stuff that needs to get done around the apartment, right?
Yeah.
You know,
and sometimes we'll do them together, so that way, you know, it's a little easier.
Yeah, exactly.
On both of us.
Yeah, but you know, it's and that's the thing, right? Is just, you know, having a conversation about like who does what and who well, what do people like to do, right? Because, you know, I have to tell you, I hate washing dishes, right? You know, and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
like it's like horrible. So
I take care of it. It's no problem.
You know, but then also there's the thing that there's also the consideration too, is that like, you know, most of the week I spend, or I used to spend the majority of my time away from home, you know, actually going to my office and working. But of course, you know, now with coronavirus, we're all sitting at home. But
yeah,
you know, so those were some things that we considered when, you know, we were figuring out kind of what each of us would like do and stuff.
Yeah, I did pick up a good portion of cleaning tasks, but that's mainly because of the fact that I feel that he has very little time when he gets back home, so I don't want him to have to spend it on, like, you know, helping out if I can help it.
Yeah.
I want him to be able to spend his time and have fun and whatnot. And it kind of winds down.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, which I really appreciate. That's really thoughtful of you. You know, I always worry that you're doing too much, right? Like, I mean, you're my significant other. You're not my housemaid. You know what I mean? So I always worry about it.
Fine. I cleaned up after 2 brothers and a mom.
Oh, I mean, I guess.
Okay, so I have a question. Share your favorite things to cook together. You said you love to cook together. We'd love to hear your top things that you love to cook together.
Oh
yeah.
Okay. Parmesan chicken, right?
Okay, yeah. So we really like to make this stuff called Parmesan chicken, which is like so for both of us, our favorite protein is chicken, right?
Yes.
You would say, yeah. So,
Except from, like, fish.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like,
Your
fish.
favorite is chicken, mine's fish.
Well, I mean, I guess if we're really talking about favorites, I love steak, right?
Gosh, steak is so good.
Yeah, but you can't eat steaks every day. At least, I can't. But so.
Yeah. One of the favorite things that you make that I really like it when you make the wings. The chicken wings.
Yeah,
They're
right.
So
I love making homemade chicken wings, right? And the thing is that we have this. When I moved into this apartment, one of the things that I was given as a gift by a really good friend of mine named Kathy is that I was given an air fryer. And I have to tell you, if you've never used one of those, they're really cool because it's like you're deep frying food, but with really hot air instead. And
it's a lot healthier.
It's a lot healthier, but it's like really good. So, and then I got another like a more like beefy air fryer, so we, we make like meals and stuff in it, and it's really pretty good,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the rice you make is great too. I love to personally, one of my absolute favorite things to make is egg toast.
Oh yeah. So Sam, she makes these two things that I really love. They're so good, right? Okay. She makes a lot more things, but these are my two favorites. So she makes Parmesan chicken, which is, how would you describe that?
It's usually basically chicken with a mixture of, get this, mayonnaise, Parmesan, and spices. And then you spread that around on top and then sprinkle on breadcrumbs, and you pop that in the oven and cook it for a good bit.
Yeah.
It comes out really great. And you can also use some of the drippings as a sort of gravy for any mashed potatoes.
Oh, yeah. People just don't believe me when I tell them that this stuff is like really good because they hear, oh, it has mayonnaise in it. And trust me, this is not something I would have ever done before she came over and made this for me. Although, isn't the first time I had it when I visited you? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the first time I had it, I was just like amazed.
Major incentive to move her in, right?
Do what?
Was that a major incentive to get her to move in? Yummy cooking.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so good stuff. Really good.
So tell us a little bit about other people in your relationship and dating. Like, have you ever had, because you guys have been in a relationship for a long time, have you ever had any conflict with like other people impacting your relationship or trying to get in the middle of you guys? And how did you deal with that?
Oh, I had a couple. As I said in the last video, I did have someone who was trying to kind of play crowbar and pry me away from him. Then that basically went splat. Didn't go well. I kind of shut them down real quick when I realized what they were trying to do.
Yeah. So, that's like very legit, like a thing that we've both experienced, and stuff like that. And, but the really important thing is to just really, be able to communicate and have that like kind of firm conversation with that other person that, you're in a relationship, you're committed to your relationship and stuff like that. And like that you're, not, gonna let them push you around, because I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily know that you want to be in a relationship with someone that's literally trying to get you to, take you away from a relationship that you're already in. I think that maybe that might be a pretty big red flag as to their character traits,
Absolutely.
So.
Because, if they're not asking what would make you happy, then it's clear that they're basically only having self-serving purposes in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's something that's pretty important. What was the question again? I think that there's a part of it we missed.
No, I think you answered it great. So the next one I have is, how do you talk to people when you're shy?
Oh my goodness. That one's a hard one. I definitely struggled with that myself.
I think just being like patient with them, right? Because it's how to talk with people who are shy, or how to talk to people if you're shy.
I think if you are shy.
Oh
that's
yeah, okay.
the one I have.
Okay, right. Oh, all right. Yeah, yeah, that's difficult, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty tough one because I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a matter of like, you know, um, as time passes, as you spend more time around someone, as you interact with them more, I think, for some people, it's just like a slow process before you start feeling comfortable with being able to have like a conversation or to communicate with another person and stuff like that. And, obviously I don't think that you should be like, I don't think you should be like stalking people, right, or anything. But if you go to the same meeting, and stuff like that, and you kind of gradually, naturally get to know them and stuff, I think that can be a great way to kind of like, feel less shy about interacting with them.
Yeah.
So
the main thing is to just kind of, I'd say for anybody who is shy, just kind of work yourself through it. Kind of build up the confidence by basically sort of mentally working yourself through how you're going to approach them.
Yeah.
And when you're first getting to kind of talk to the person, if you're nervous about like personality quirks of yours, just kind of be very like let out a little bit of yourself at a time, so you don't feel like, if the person rejects you, they're rejecting you completely as a person. It's just like, okay, maybe they're not compatible or friendly with me, period. That's okay. It's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's just really important to like, to do that. So
Yeah.
I agree completely.
And just kind of also, it's definitely do not take it bad if someone like rejects any sort of interaction or friendship. It's just one person, and we live on a planet that has tons of people on it. Okay,
like
so
more than 7 billion people.
Yes, more than 7 billion people. So if one person isn't okay to talk to you, that doesn't mean that everybody's not going to be okay to talk to you.
Yeah.
And it's important to keep that in mind, that that was just one person.
Yeah.
It's not everyone. So just keep up hope and keep on trying.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question in the chat. How can I tell if people like me if I don't really understand social cues? I have a hard time with that.
Oh my God. Yeah, so
this is funny to me because I did not realize he liked me.
Yeah.
I literally had to wait for him to tell me that he liked me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that, that's, I feel like there are probably like some, there are things that you can like look for, right? Like if people give you compliments, or if you, people do nice things for you, or that type of thing. But like, I think that, and also there's like a lot about like, what type of a, relationship that you have with that person, right? So there's some people where it's like appropriate to have a relationship with them, and then there's some people where it's like it's not appropriate to have like a relationship with them. But I think that one of the things about that is that if it's someone that it's that you would have a relationship with like that, then I think it's okay to just like talk to them, and if you like them, then just say, hey, I really like you, and see how they how they react, and have a conversation about that.
Indeed, I do agree with that.
Yeah, so
Shut up.
I don't
It's okay. Also, to the Pave staff, thank you. The Parmesan chicken is really good, I assure you.
It's really, really good. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any more questions anyone has for us?
Yeah, so there's actually another question in my private chat. I have a boyfriend who calls all of the time and texts all of the time, and I'm really challenged with that. So, any thoughts on that or how to help with that issue?
I think that that's like something that is you know, I think it's okay to have a conversation with them about that and say, you know, that is, you know, it's a boundary, right? You know, and that's something that you are not liking that they're doing, and I think it's okay to say that to them, you know, and have a conversation about it, you know, and that type of thing. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why someone might be doing that, you know, but I think that at the end of the day, you know, it's really important that, you know, you figure out how they react once you've talked to them about the fact that, you know, you have it's a problem that they're doing it, you know, so.
Just kind of talk to them and find out, hey, is there a problem?
Yeah.
Why do you keep contacting me like this?
Yeah.
And just kind of open up the sort of dialogue to find out, okay, why is this going on?
Yeah.
If there's any way to kind of make it clear, it's like, hey, I kind of am not happy with this. Is there any way you could not call as much?
Yeah.
And just kind of, you know, sorry, trying to collect my words here.
You're fine.
Kind of determine whether or not this is from potentially, what this also tells me is that they might have a history of being in a situation where something happened because of the lack of contact, or they might have some insecurities they need to work through.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Too is that, you know, I think that some people, you know, there are a lot of people, especially a lot of people in the disability community, you know, who have never had someone like talk with them about, you know, what things are good to do and what things maybe aren't good to do in a relationship. And so it could really just be as simple as like having a conversation with them and talking about, like, you know, what's okay and, you know, what isn't okay, especially within that specific relationship. But the other thing too, though, is that I think it's really also very important to keep in mind that, you know, when you express what your boundary is and you have, you know, that you tell them, oh, you know, this is something I have a problem with, I think that it's important to then look at, like, well, what is your next step if they don't respect what your boundary is? Because I think that, you know, at that point, you know, sometimes that person really might not be the right person, you know, to be in a relationship with. So
you definitely want to sort of keep an eye on how they react to being told, hey, this is uncomfortable for me, please don't do this.
Yeah.
If they react really negatively, that's a very big red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
That's a huge red flag that maybe something's wrong here and maybe this might not be safe for you.
Yeah, exactly.
If nothing else, definitely in that sort of situation, keep an eye out for yourself. Don't ignore those red flags.
Yeah.
You need to stay safe.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like lots more things around that type of stuff, like, you know, figuring out what's a safe and not safe situation that we can go into in our relation in our video here. But you know, so
definitely.
Well, I do have another question from the chat. So someone asked, has everyone always been supportive? I'm speaking about being people with disabilities dating. Has everyone always been supportive of your relationship and with you dating?
What was that last part?
I think they mean in your family. Like, have the people in your family and with your friends, like, have they been supportive of your dating relationship?
Yeah, I would say mostly yes, and
Yeah.
I would also venture to say that the people who expressed maybe doubt or concern about our relationship, I don't know that they necessarily were doing that because of the fact that they were
Looking
really
out for you.
well. I mean that, but I was going to say I don't know that they necessarily did that because they were thinking like, oh, they had an issue with either of us being in a relationship with the person with the disability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was not usually
That's-
the sort of focus.
No. So, but
Because we've definitely had situations where someone was not supportive and by friends.
Oh yeah, our friends. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was our families have been pretty supportive.
Our families have definitely been supportive, but we had a couple friends. Each of us has at least had one person that was not supportive of the relationship, but we kind of later found out it was because they didn't like one of us.
Yeah. So that was just and and that's just really difficult and unfortunate, to have to deal with it when you have friends or you have people who are really not wanting to to support your relationship, but that's just something that happens sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but sometimes there's not really much you can do aside from letting them know. Yeah, no, this isn't changing.
Yeah, exactly, right.
You can be unhappy with it as you want.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening there.
Yeah, exactly. But we've been, I think, really very fortunate with regards to like our families both being really supportive of all the steps that we've taken in our relationship, even with Sam like moving here and moving in with me and stuff, which is I like, trust me, I know that is like a really like a big step for some people in their relationships to like for one person to like move across the country to live with their boyfriend or girlfriend, their significant other. But we've also been in our relationship for 10 years now, and it's starting when we were like both 17, right? And we're 27 now, so yeah,
been a long time, eh?
it has been a really long time. My goodness.
Oh my God, the years are slipping by so fast.
Okay. So another one here in the private chat was I am out of high school now and don't have a lot of social circles.
Yeah.
And I really like someone from work. And my job coach told me that it's not appropriate to date at work, but I really like this person. What do you say about that?
Well, that's a really tough one.
Yeah, definitely.
That I would go ahead and what I will say is that that having I would say that you should like I'm gonna say it's not impossible, right? But it can get very messy very quickly, right?
Oh yes.
Because and I think that like I don't know that at your workplace is an appropriate time to like have a conversation where you talk to them about how much you like them, right?
But
like,
definitely after work, maybe.
After work. And the other thing is that you have to keep in mind that, when you have a relationship with someone and you're also working at the same place as them, there's like a lot of ways for that to go wrong if your relationship doesn't like turn out, right? Like, I mean, if you meet someone, when you're out like at a bar or you're somewhere and you just happen to like, you meet them and then you have that relationship with them and then maybe that relationship doesn't work out and all that kind of stuff. Well, then, unless they're like a stalker or like a person that's just like, unless those things apply, then that is the end of it. But if you're trying to have a relationship with someone that then you also work with,
you're going to have to wind up seeing them every single day if they're on the same shift as you.
Well, exactly. And the other thing too, though, is that maybe that won't work out, or if the other person maybe didn't take it very well, then, you know, maybe they can make your work life really difficult, you know, and that's,
Yes.
and, you know, so in terms of practicality, that's not really something that I think that I would recommend, you know.
Yeah.
So
If you are going to pursue it, I'd say definitely try to approach it as respectful as possible and make
Yeah.
sure to make it clear. Well, first of all, you're going to want to do this not at work.
yeah,
But you're going to want to sort of like see if they're okay initially with spending time with you when you guys are off work.
oh yeah, that's
Because if
right. Yeah,
if they're not for that, then clearly they might not be interested back.
yeah, I would say that that's definitely a sign they aren't interested in a relationship.
And I know when I was working a job, I had a guy who was trying to kind of serenade me, and it's like, I'm in a relationship. So you also want to make sure that you kind of learn what their situation is. Are they single? Because if
Yeah,
they're not,
that's the
you
thing,
don't want
too,
to push that.
Yeah.
That's a bad situation to kind of start pushing into.
Yeah, exactly. That's, you gotta be like really careful about that too, because if you're, you know, most people don't take their significant other with them to their place of work. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's really important that you figure out what their status is, you know.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
And you also want to make sure that if they don't take to your confession or anything, you let them know, okay, that's all right.
Oh, yeah.
No pressure.
Oh yeah, that's the
That
other thing,
we can
right?
just stay co-worker, or stay friends, or just even stay co-workers. It's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, right.
Don't feel like, you know, I'm gonna be, you know, creeping on you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not going to be creeping on you. So speaking of that, there's a question about safety online. I'm going to
Okay.
kind of try and rephrase it because I want to make sure I capture the whole thing. I'm new to being online, and I have lots of people asking me to meet up and to see me. I don't know that I'm comfortable meeting people in person, but it seems to upset some of them. What should I do? Wrapping up a couple of questions in one.
Okay.
All right.
So general guidelines about that. Really making sure if you meet up with someone that you know in person, right? To give context, right? I was pretty. Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Go ahead.
So to give context, when years and years ago, you know, let's see, was that like 20-ish when we, you know, what?
Hold up. Let's see here. I think you were like 2021.
So I was like 20 or 21, I guess. I think I was 20, right? So we were 20 when I went to go visit Sam for the first time, and so I had my mother with me at that point, right? Like, you know, and that was like the whole thing. I mean, she didn't just sit there the whole time with us, but she went with me on the plane to go over, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And
It's always good to take somebody with you.
And you know, and right. And so like, I'm not saying that you need to have your mother with you, but
No.
but I had someone who was there with me when I went to go meet Sam, right? So like, you know, one thing is have a friend with you if you are going to go meet someone, right? You know, that you've met.
Make sure that family also might know where you're at.
Yes,
if you've got good relationships with your family.
Right. Make sure your
Always
family
make sure
or friends, know where you're at.
Yeah. So that way, if something is skeevy, if there is some red flag situation going on there, they know where you're at.
And there's no reason why someone who wants to meet you for the first time should be asking you to meet somewhere that's not a public place, right? So
yeah,
like
absolutely.
So you know, you say, you know, like a restaurant or a mall or something like that where there's other people around would be a appropriate location for you to go on a date, so to say, with a person, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that type of thing. So I think that that's like, those are some just basic, really, good safety guidelines to keep in mind, right?
Yeah, definitely. If you can help it, don't meet up at your home if it's a
Oh my
situation where
gosh,
you're
yeah,
kind
for
of
real.
nervous.
Yeah, well, I would say probably don't, just bring someone to your home, right away in general before you've had a chance to meet them, because
Yeah, that
that's,
can go south real fast.
yeah, right? Like you don't know yet. So it's really important to not necessarily just give out your address,
Mhm.
and that type of thing, because you don't know what people do, so.
Exactly.
That sounds like really good advice, you guys. So we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Just kind of to close up tonight, is there what are the main things you hope people walk away from here, hearing from you guys as a couple about healthy relationships and the keys to that?
Oh, definitely make sure that you communicate with your partner. Make sure that if you ever have trouble with your partner, that if there's something going on that you are having some kind of difficulty with, that you don't just feel comfortable with, like, make sure you don't just talk to them, but also talk to the other people, that you're friends with, and or that you
People
are
you
close
trust.
to, people you trust, right, who are in your life and stuff, to find out, what they think and stuff like that. And but you don't have to take their word as gospel, but it's really important to have other people who are kind of looking out for you.
Yeah, kind of get some second opinions and whatnot.
Yeah.
On the situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Anything else?
I definitely say that I do hope that like some people come away with this with a little bit of more knowledge on how to kind of tackle problems in their relationship that they might have, or even kind of set up a sort of idea on how to tackle things in the next relationship or their first relationship. Because those 3 things I've been citing a lot, I know, but I can't stress how important it is to basically be patient, to communicate, and to compromise.
Yeah.
Those 3 things are just paramount in a relationship. Because if you're not patient enough, things are definitely bound to fall through.
The patience thing is really
communication
important.
There's going to be a lot of problems because people aren't on the same page, or even there might be assumptions that can turn into arguments and whatnot. And compromise, making sure that the relationship feels equal, so that way it doesn't feel like there's a huge imbalance in either power or sort of that's the term. Sorry, I'm trying to find the word for it. Sort of satisfaction. That there's an imbalance in satisfaction, because you don't want one person being.
It's all give and no take, right?
Yes.
That type of thing.
Relationships are very much a give and take situation.
Well, thank you guys so much. I can't thank you enough for being here and doing this live with everyone, and being so vulnerable and honest about your relationship and sharing with others. I just appreciate your time today, and I'm getting thank yous in the chat box and stuff like that. So we just appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for your time. And you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having us, and thank you to all the people who wind up seeing this and are here with us. Thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming to our presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and sign us off now.
All right. Bye.
Bye.